Black college student skipped an exam to help a billionaire, then a helicopter landed in her backyard. Did you really think that saving a stranger on the street would make you a hero? Dr. Patricia Costa, dean of the medical school, tore Camila's appeal papers in half and threw the pieces on the floor. People like you only know how to beg for exceptions. You don't belong here. Camila Santos, 21, still wearing the blood-stained lab coat from 3 days ago, stood in the luxurious office trying to process what she had just heard. 4 years of perfect grades, 2 scientific initiation scholarships, a childhood dream of becoming a doctor, all thrown away because she chose to save a life. Your scholarship has been cancelled. You have 48 hours to pay the tuition fee of 28,000 reis or you'll be expelled permanently. Patricia didn't even look up from the papers on the table. Next. Camila felt the tears burning, but she didn't let a single one fall. Her grandmother always said, "Cry at home, daughter. On the street, maintain your dignity." She picked up the torn pieces from the floor and left without saying a word. 3 days earlier, Camila was rushing to the most important exam of the semester when she saw the woman lying unconscious on the sidewalk. Blood was dripping from her head, her lips were purple, and she had no detectable pulse. At least 50 people walked right by, some even taking pictures to post on social media. Camila dropped her backpack on the dirty sidewalk and knelt down. First aid techniques she had studied for years were finally being put into practice. Cardiopulmonary resuscitation, bleeding control, correct positioning to avoid spinal injury. 15 minutes saving a life while her cell phone rang non-stop, classmates warning her that the exam had started. When the ambulance arrived, the paramedic looked at Camila with genuine respect. "You saved her, girl. 5 more minutes and it would have been too late." Camila arrived at college 40 minutes late. The classroom door was locked, professors refused to accept her explanation, and the administration was inflexible. Policy is policy. There are no exceptions. Now, walking down the hallway after the humiliation in Patricia's office, Camila felt the weight of an injustice that went far beyond her. How many other poor black students had been expelled for not following the rules, while the children of wealthy doctors got second, third, fourth chances? But there was something in Camila's eyes that Patricia couldn't break. A quiet determination, as if she knew this story was just beginning. Maybe it was intuition. Maybe it was the experience of someone who grew up facing seemingly impossible obstacles. What Patricia Costa didn't know was that the woman Camila saved was not just any stranger. And in 72 hours, a helicopter would land in the backyard of the simple house where Camila lived with her grandmother, bringing a twist that would turn that injustice into the greatest lesson the city's most elite medical school had ever received. If you are following this story and want to find out how a seemingly defeated student managed to turn the tables, don't forget to subscribe to the channel because what follows will show that underestimating those who have the courage to do the right thing is always a very costly mistake. Camila walked through the college parking lot carrying a box with her belongings from the lab. 3 days after her summary expulsion, the humiliation continued. Patricia had spread the word to the entire faculty that the problematic scholarship student had finally shown her true colors by abandoning her academic responsibilities. "I always knew she couldn't handle the pressure," commented Dr. Fernando Alves, professor of anatomy, loud enough for Camila to hear as she walked down the hall. "These inclusion programs only bring in unprepared people." The worst part wasn't the expulsion itself. The worst part was discovering that Patricia had called other universities in the region, warning them about Camila's problematic history. 3 colleges had already rejected her transfer before even looking at her grades. Patricia's network of influence extended far beyond what Camila imagined. In the simple house where she lived with her grandmother Conceição, Camila found piles of bills on the kitchen table. Without the scholarship, she not only lost her dream of becoming a doctor, she also lost the 500 reis a month that helped with expenses. Her grandmother's pension barely covered the rent. "Honey, you did the right thing," said Conceição, pouring watery coffee into chipped cups. "Your mother, God rest her soul, died because the doctor at the clinic said that back pain in a maid was normal. If you had let that lady die to take a test." Camila hugged her grandmother and for the first time in 3 days let the tears fall. But there was something different about those tears. It wasn't despair, it was anger. A cold, calculated anger that grew with each new injustice she discovered. What Patricia didn't know was that Camila had spent the last 4 years documenting everything. Every prejudiced comment disguised as academic feedback, every opportunity denied, every time she saw white classmates get second chances that were never offered to black students. At 15, when her mother Rosangela died due to medical negligence, Camila didn't just promise to become a doctor. She promised to change a system that treated people like her as disposable. For years at the city's most elite college weren't just about studying medicine, they were about studying the enemy. Camila turned on her old laptop and opened a folder called Justice Project. Inside were hundreds of meticulously organized files. Screenshots of WhatsApp group chats where professors made racist jokes. Audio recordings of meetings where they discussed lowering the bar because of quota students. Documents showing how scholarships were redistributed to more suitable candidates. But the most important file was protected by a double password, a 43-minute recording of a university board meeting where Patricia openly admitted that she preferred to maintain the traditional standard of the institution, even if that meant discouraging certain candidates. The phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Camila? This is Dr. Isabella Ferreira, from the legal team of the woman you helped on Monday. She would very much like to talk to you. Would it be possible for us to meet tomorrow? Camila hesitated. She didn't want charity or pity from anyone. Doctor, I didn't save anyone expecting a reward. I know that. That's exactly why she needs to talk to you. She heard about what happened at your college through the press. She has a proposal that might interest you. Camila hung up and looked out the kitchen window. In the small backyard, her grandmother was watering the plants with water recycled from the washing machine. Even in difficult times, Conceição always found a way to make things grow. That night, Camila couldn't sleep. She typed until dawn, organizing 4 years of evidence into a 27-page report. If that woman really wanted to help, Camila wasn't interested in handouts. She was interested in war. What Patricia Costa and the entire corrupt system at São Lucas Medical School didn't know was that they had completely underestimated a young woman who grew up seeing injustice and promised never to accept it silently again. They thought breaking a poor student would be easy. They had no idea they had just awakened someone who had spent years gathering ammunition for a battle that was just beginning. Each new humiliation only fueled a determination that grew in silence, like a storm forming on the horizon, and storms like that don't ask permission to destroy everything in their path. The next morning, Camila took 3 buses to reach the address she had been given, an office in the city's most exclusive business district. The contrast was striking, she in her patched jeans and worn sneakers, walking through marble corridors where every square meter cost more than her entire house. The woman waiting for her in the meeting room was not what Camila expected. Victoria Almeida, 52, elegantly combed gray hair, a scar still visible on her forehead, a determined look in her eyes. At her side was Dr. Ricardo Mendez, a lawyer specializing in human rights, known for taking on impossible cases against large corporations. Camila, thank you for agreeing to meet with me. Victoria stood up, extending her hand. I am Victoria Almeida, CEO of Almeida Holdings Group. You saved my life. Camila almost choked. Almeida Holdings Group, the multinational corporation that controlled hospitals, universities, and foundations across the country. The woman she had rescued on the street controlled a 20 billion real empire. Ma'am, I don't want charity, Camila said bluntly. Victoria smiled for the first time. Great, because I don't offer charity. I offer war. She pushed a tablet across the table. I've spent the last 3 days investigating your college. What I found made me sick. On the screen, detailed spreadsheets showed systematic patterns. Over the past 5 years, 89% of black students who requested emergency exam transfers were denied, while 94% of white students in similar situations received silent approval. Your Dr. Patricia Costa didn't just destroy your life, she did it as part of a deliberate pattern to expel black and poor students, Victoria continued. But here's the interesting thing, she doesn't know who I am. Dr. Mendez opened his briefcase. We have evidence that Patricia received bribes from wealthy families to secure approvals for mediocre children. 3 million in an offshore account over the past 2 years. We are preparing complaints to the public prosecutor's office, but we need more internal evidence. Camila felt her heart race. It was exactly what she needed to hear. I have the evidence, she said calmly. She opened her old laptop and showed them the organized folders. 4 years of meticulous documentation. Secretly recorded conversations, screenshots of private groups, leaked emails, financial reports that had disappeared from previous investigations. Victoria and Dr. Mendez exchanged impressed glances as they browsed through the files. "My God," Victoria murmured. "You collected all this yourself?" "Since the first year. My mother died because prejudiced doctors ignored her symptoms. I swore that if I ever had power, I would use it to change the system. I just didn't know that day would come so soon." At that moment, Victoria's phone rang. She answered it on speakerphone. "Victoria? This is Marcos from the press office. You need to see this." "What happened?" "Patricia Costa just gave an interview to the university newspaper. She called Camila Santos an example of what happens when we lower academic standards to please social movements. She said that some students use racial issues to justify incompetence." The silence in the room was heavy. Camila felt tears of anger burning, but she didn't let them fall. "She just committed professional suicide," Dr. Mendez said coldly. "This is racially motivated public defamation. We have her now." Victoria stood up. "Camila, how would you like to respond to that?" The question brought back all the humiliations. Every time teachers doubted her ability. Every opportunity denied. Every whispered comment about quotas when she got better grades than her white classmates. "I want Patricia Costa to lose everything," Camila replied firmly. "Her job, her reputation, her freedom. I want her to feel firsthand what it's like to have your life destroyed by prejudice. But I don't want dirty revenge. I want clean, documented, irrefutable justice." Victoria smiled again, a smile that promised storms. "Then that's what we'll do. But first things first, you're going back to that college tomorrow." "How?" "I'm expelled." "Not anymore. As the institution's largest private donor, I just made our annual donation of $12 million conditional on your immediate readmission. Temporary, of course. Just until we gather enough evidence to destroy Patricia publicly." Dr. Mendez opened another file. "We have a 3-phase plan. Phase 1, you return as a student, with full legal protection. We gather more internal evidence. Phase 2, public confrontation with all the evidence. Phase 3, complete overhaul of the system." Camila looked at these two people she barely knew offering unlimited resources for a war she had dreamed of fighting alone for years. "Why are you doing this for me?" Victoria became serious. "Because you saved me without knowing me. Because I discovered that you documented injustices for years without being able to do anything about them. Because Patricia Costa represents everything that is rotten in institutions that should be educating people to be better." Pause. "And because I have a daughter your age who, if she were black, could be in your place." As they discussed the details of the plan, none of the three knew that Patricia Costa was at that moment in an emergency meeting with the dean, planning a new offensive against the problematic student who was causing embarrassment to the institution. What Patricia didn't realize was that her next move, which she considered the final blow to end Camila once and for all, would be exactly what Victoria and her army of lawyers were waiting for to turn a silent war into a devastating public exposure that would cause Patricia to lose not only her job, but her freedom. In that luxurious office, 3 brilliant minds were finishing planning a justice as elegant as it was brutal, and Patricia Costa was walking straight into a trap she herself was building with her own arrogance. 3 days after the defamatory interview, Patricia Costa called an extraordinary meeting of the University Council. Her strategy was simple: present a complete dossier on Camila's inappropriate behavior, and expel her permanently before any external pressure could interfere. "Gentlemen, we have a cancer in our institution," Patricia began, distributing folders to the 12 counselors present. "Camila Santos represents everything we fight against: disregard for rules, racial victimhood, seeking attention through fabricated controversies." Dean Dr. Enrique Morais leafed through the fabricated pages. "Patricia, this is very serious. Accusations of antisocial behavior, contempt for teachers. All documented," Patricia smiled confidently. "She needs to be expelled today, before the situation gets out of control." At that exact moment, the auditorium doors opened. Camila entered accompanied by an elegant woman whom Patricia did not recognize, followed by 3 men in suits carrying briefcases. "Sorry for the interruption," said the stranger calmly. "I am Victoria Almeida, chair of the board of the Almeida Foundation, the main donor to this institution. I believe this meeting concerns us." The silence was immediate and heavy. 12 board members, including the dean, stood up instantly. Patricia remained seated, confused, trying to process who this woman was and why she was there with Camila. "Ms. Almeida," Dr. Morais stammered, "it's an honor, but this is an internal administrative meeting." "About a student who saved my life," Victoria interrupted. "And about an employee who publicly defamed that same student. I believe that gives us the legal right to participate." Dr. Mendez stepped forward. "Attorney Ricardo Mendez, representing Ms. Almeida and Ms. Santos. I am filing official notice of a lawsuit for defamation, racial discrimination, and civil rights violations against Dr. Patricia Costa and this institution." Patricia finally stood up, her face red with anger. "What does this mean? Who are you to come here and threaten our academic autonomy?" Victoria smiled coldly. "Autonomy? Let's talk about autonomy." She motioned to the second lawyer, who connected a laptop to the room's projector. "Counselors, I would like you to see evidence collected over the past 4 years of systematic discriminatory practices at this college." The first image projected was a detailed spreadsheet. In 5 years, 847 students have requested emergency reconsideration of exams. 89% of black students were denied. 94% of white students were quietly accommodated. Shocked murmurs rippled through the room. Patricia tried to intervene. "These are numbers without context, manipulated too." The second screen showed screenshots from WhatsApp groups. Messages from teachers making racist jokes, including several from Patricia, another quota student crying for an exception. "These social program students have no discipline. We need to maintain our standards, even if some don't like it." The third lawyer distributed transcripts. Recordings of meetings where discrimination is openly discussed. Patricia's voice echoed through the room. "We can't lower our standards just because some groups are pushing for inclusion." Patricia was pale. "These recordings were made illegally, they can't be used." "Actually they can," Dr. Mendez replied calmly. "Meetings about public policy at institutions that receive federal funding are considered to be in the public interest. But the best is yet to come." Victoria picked up the microphone. "Dr. Patricia, do you remember this phone conversation?" A new audio clip began to play. Patricia's voice was unmistakable. "Of course I can guarantee your son's approval. 15,000 in cash, plus 5,000 for teaching materials. The boy doesn't even have to show up for class." The auditorium erupted. Council members looked at each other in horror. Patricia tried to speak, but no sound came out of her throat. "We have documentation of 17 cases of bribery in the last 3 years, Victoria continued. "Offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, tracked transfers, recorded conversations. The Internal Revenue Service and the Public Prosecutor's Office have already been notified." Dr. Morais was in shock. "Patricia, is this true?" Patricia finally managed to speak, her voice trembling. "You don't understand. It was to maintain quality, to protect the institution." "Protect it from what?" Camila spoke for the first time, her voice calm but firm. "From competent students who happen to be black? From people who choose to save lives instead of taking tests." Victoria continued her devastating presentation. For 4 years, Camila meticulously documented every injustice, every prejudiced comment, every opportunity denied. Every time they saw mediocre white students get chances that exceptional black students never had. The screen showed Camila's grades: 9.8 average, 3 scientific publications, 2 research grants, class leader for 2 consecutive years. Next to them were the grades of 5 white students who received special consideration from the administration, averages between 6.2 and 7.1. And now Victoria looked directly at Patricia. "I'm going to explain who I am and why this matters so much to me." Dramatic pause. "A week ago, I had a brain aneurysm on the street. Right here." She touched the scar on her forehead. "Dozens of people walked past me. They took pictures, posted them on social media, and went on with their lives." Absolute silence. Camila Santos stopped. "She missed her most important exam, risked her future, saved my life. And this institution punished her for it." Victoria's voice was charged with controlled emotion. "When I found out what happened, we investigated further. What we found was a rotten system, run by people like Dr. Patricia Costa." Patricia tried one last card. She's buying justice. Using money to intimidate our institution. Victoria laughed, a sound as cold as ice. Buying? Dr. Patricia, our foundation donated $12 million to this university last year. We fund scholarships, equipment, salaries. Including yours. Deadly pause. I'm not buying justice. I'm ensuring that our money does not fund institutional racism. The dean stood up, trembling. Ms. Almeida, on behalf of the university, I apologize. Don't apologize to me. Apologize to Camila, Victoria pointed out. And more importantly, take action. Dr. Mendez stepped forward again. Gentlemen, you have a choice. You can act now, dismissing Dr. Patricia, implementing real reforms, and adequately compensating Ms. Santos. Or you can explain to the press, the Public Prosecutor's Office, the Internal Revenue Service, and millions of Raisin donations why you chose to protect corruption and racism. Patricia finally realized she had lost everything. Her legs gave way, and she sat down heavily, her face in her hands. The decision is simple, Victoria concluded. Justice or total destruction. You have 5 minutes to decide. What Patricia Costa did not realize that morning was that her arrogance, her certainty of impunity, her contempt for a simple black student, had led her straight into the most elaborate trap of her life. And in that silent auditorium, looking at the documents scattered on the table and Camila's determined face, she finally understood that she had completely underestimated not only a brilliant student, but a force of nature who was about to rewrite all the rules of the game. The 5 minutes of silence in the auditorium turned into a unanimous vote. Patricia Costa was fired for just cause that same day, losing all her labor rights and retirement benefits. The University Council unanimously approved the creation of the Camila Santos Protocol, a policy of total protection for students who provide assistance in medical emergencies. 3 weeks later, Patricia tried to get a job at other universities. Victoria had personally called the deans of 17 institutions, discreetly sharing the recordings. No doors opened. The woman who once controlled academic destinies with an iron fist now faced the reality of having her own future destroyed by her choices. The public prosecutor's investigation revealed an even larger network of corruption. 17 professors were dismissed, including Dr. Fernando Alves, who had commented on unprepared people in the hallway. 43 wealthy families had to return bribes paid over 5 years, a total of 7 million reais that were converted into scholarships for needy students. Camila returned to class as a national hero. Her story went viral on social media with the hashtag Justice for Camila, inspiring black students across the country to document discrimination at their institutions. Victoria created the Camila Santos Institute, offering free legal support for similar cases. 6 months later, Camila graduated as valedictorian, ranking first in the National Medical Residency exam. She chose to work at the same public hospital where her mother died, promising that no patient would be neglected due to prejudice. Patricia Costa, on the other hand, was found working as a receptionist at a veterinary clinic in a small town in the countryside. Her former colleagues avoided contact, and her friends from the social elite disappeared when she no longer had the power to offer favors. Her luxury apartment was auctioned off to pay labor debts to former employees she had unfairly dismissed over the years. Victoria attended Camila's graduation, sitting in the front row next to Conceição, who cried with pride as she watched her granddaughter receive the diploma that had almost been stolen from her because of prejudice. During her speech, Camila looked directly at the cameras broadcasting the ceremony live. A year ago, a woman tried to convince me that I didn't belong in medicine because I am black and poor. Today, I graduate knowing that I belong wherever my knowledge, dedication, and character take me. Pause for thunderous applause. My mother died because prejudiced doctors ignored her symptoms. I promise to dedicate my career to ensuring that this never happens to anyone else. The college implemented permanent structural changes. The new dean, Dr. Marcus Silva, the first black person to hold the position in the institution's 127-year history, created an ethics committee with a majority of black and underprivileged students. Pass rates by race began to be published every 6 months, under penalty of federal investigation. 2 years later, Camila specialized in emergency medicine, becoming the youngest doctor promoted to head of the municipal hospital. Her protocols for equal care were adopted in public hospitals in 3 states, literally saving thousands of lives that would previously have been lost due to discriminatory negligence. Patricia never recovered financially or socially. She tried to sue Victoria for persecution, but lost when the lawyers presented the original recordings proving corruption. She had to pay court costs that left her even more in debt. Her own lawyers abandoned her when they discovered that she had lied about the evidence in her possession. The final irony came when Patricia needed emergency care after suffering a heart attack. By coincidence, she was taken to the hospital where Camila worked. The young doctor, faithful to the Hippocratic Oath, provided the best possible treatment, saving the life of the woman who had almost destroyed her future. When Patricia woke up in the ICU and recognized the doctor who had treated her, her eyes filled with tears of belated shame. "Why did you help me?" she whispered. Camila adjusted the four with steady hands. "Because doctors save lives, regardless of who the patient is. That's what separates people like me from people like you used to be." Victoria visited Camila monthly, following her meteoric rise in medicine. Together, they created a foundation that had already helped 127 black students who were victims of academic discrimination to complete their courses and sue racist institutions. "You turned a personal injustice into systemic change," Victoria said during a celebratory dinner. "Your mother would be proud." Camila smiled, discreetly touching the photo she always carried in her lab coat. "She is proud. And more importantly, she is avenged." Camila Santos' story proves that true justice is not just about defeating those who harm you, it's about using that victory to protect others who will come after you. Patricia Costa tried to break a young black woman and ended up breaking the entire system that allowed people like her to thrive through discrimination. Today, when students face similar prejudices, they have a legal precedent, a protection protocol, and a story of hope. Camila's revenge was not personal, it was systemic, permanent, and multiplied in hundreds of lives that now have opportunities that would previously have been denied. If this story of transformation through justice has touched your heart, subscribe to the channel to follow more real stories of people who have turned their greatest defeats into the most inspiring victories, because sometimes life breaks us at exactly the right point to make us unbreakable.